What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be your review for Insecure season 4. Oh gosh, yeah. Season 4, episode 8. So listen, we know how we left off last week. We were trying to figure out who Lawrence called. Well, he called Issa. So Lawrence is sitting at the bar waiting, he's checking his watch, checking his breath, trying to see who's going to show up. He look up, um, and it's Issa. And Issa look cute, honey. And as she's walking over to the bar to meet him, she falls flat on her face in traditional awkward black girl style. And of course, so she gets up and that moment where you have to get up and still have to walk. And he was like, "You want to go somewhere else?" She was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not embarrassed." And he was like, "Okay, like you shouldn't be, but you should." So he ordered her drink for her, and come to find out she changed her drink. And he was like, "Oh, you don't drink that anymore?" And she was like, "Yeah, I've discovered, something else." And she was like, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, see, I've changed, and it's sort of that moment, they kind of give each other the look or whatever." So then they get to talking. He was telling her that he ran into Molly at the airport, and that it was a kind of awkward. She was like, "Oh, that's probably because me and Molly not friends anymore." And of course he joked, because who would ever think that, he said Molly not friends anymore? And he was like, "Really? Like, what's that about?" And she's like, "Yeah, I really don't want to talk about it." So, and you could tell he really wants to talk about it, but she's like, "Yeah, I really don't want to. We're not going there tonight." He said, "Okay." She said, "Well, what is it that you want to talk to me about?" He was like, "Oh, well, we could get there." He said, "So how, sorry I couldn't make it to the block party." And she was like, "It's cool." So they make it small talk, honey. And then at a certain point, the bar turned into the club. They start blasting Lizzo. And here's the thing. We know places like that. Like, there's this TGI Fridays in Greenbelt, Maryland, that it at a certain point it's just the club. Well, it used to be. I don't know if it is anymore, but it just at a certain point it's just the club. Especially when it's warm outside. I mean, you got to show ID to get in after a certain time. Like, it turns into the club. And that's what that place turned into. And the music got loud, and they couldn't have a conversation. So he was like, "Listen, do you want to go somewhere else?" And she was like, "Sure." So he said, "What about that? What about that spot you wanted me to take you to when we were dating?" He was like, "Have you been there yet?" He said, "You probably been there before." She was like, "No." So they end up going to the restaurant, honey. He get a Uber Black. She was like, "Oh, look at you." He was like, "Yeah, you ain't the only one that's changed." So they talk about Condola. And Condola's like, I mean, she talked about the fact that she knew that they broke up, and he was like, "Yeah, it is what it is." He don't get into the reasons and all of that. He was just kind of like, she said, "So what is it that you want to tell me?" And he was like, I'm gonna get there. So they get to the restaurant, and Issa just has to let him know that she done been there a couple of times, honey. He's like, "Well, why did you lie?" She said, "Well, because you wanted to come here, so it's no big deal." So she ended up ordering for them, honey. It seemed like she knew the whole daggone menu by heart, but she ended up ordering for them. And so they're oh, let me get back to this Uber driver. So Issa was like, "I hope we have a quiet Uber driver. When I'm driving, I ask people will they want to talk or not, and I get mad when they want to talk." And the damn Uber driver is talking. At first, I thought it was Felicia Rashad. Like, the voice did sound like her at first, but it wasn't. But she's talking about, "Oh, y'all on the first date? Oh, you doing good for the first date?" And they were like, "No, it's not. It's not our first date." She was like, "Oh, oh, okay. Oh, so y'all got that young black love. Oh, y'all got that real young black love." And she was like, Issa is trying to correct her, and Lawrence is going along with it. So then she gonna say, "Where y'all from?" She gonna say Alaska. Lawrence was like, "Alaska?" So then he said, "Yeah, I bought her a ring and everything. I was serious." And Issa's looking at him like, "Nigga, what?" She want to stop at the light, turn around with her flashlight on her phone, and say, "Well, hurry up, nigga. The light gonna change. Go on and ask her now." Girl, I said, I'm gonna need the Uber driver to get it together. But anyway, so they're having dinner after Easton ordered up the whole damn menu, and they actually get ready to have the conversation that has been coming for 2 years. Now, here's the thing about when relationships break up. You can't force that conversation. You have to have the conversation that they had. You have to have that conversation when both parties are ready to be honest, be reflective, and listen. because both of them had to hear some hard truths about their part in the relationship. And Lawrence asked her, he was like, why Daniel? He said, I mean, was it that it could have been anybody, or was it something special about Daniel? And Issa said no. She said it's not so much that it could have been anybody. She said, but he made me feel wanted. Like, he made me feel wanted. And it just felt good for somebody to want me. And, you know, Lawrence was like, damn, was I that bad? Issa was like, yeah, it was that bad. She said there were times when I would just drive around after work and I just didn't want to come home. And so then Lawrence was saying how it made him feel some kind of way that every morning she got up to go to work and he didn't have nowhere to go. He said he even thought about moving back home with his parents, but he knew that would make it worse. And so he had to be honest about what he was going through and how badly it was affecting him, and probably affected him as a man. And she said, well, why didn't you ever say that? Like, why didn't you ever tell me? And he was just like, you know, I couldn't admit it to myself. How I'm going to admit it to you, you know? And so it was deep. And they got a chance to really just talk about, you know, he said, where do you think we would be if we hadn't broke up? And Issa was just like, you know, wow, like, you know, I don't know. Because that's sort of like the question the Condola asked him. That's really the impossible question. Like, you can't really answer that question, you know? So Issa got up to go to the bathroom, and Condola texts him. And we see where Condola, they must have made plans. Condola was like, I know we made plans for Tuesday, but can we do it tonight? And Lawrence says, well, you know, I'm kind of in the middle of something right now. I'll hit you up later. So I was like, okay, Lawrence, what we doing? What games we playing? But then I was like, she probably just wants to talk or whatever. Anyway, so again, it was really just a great conversation that was well overdue that they needed to hear. And I think because at one point they were kind of dancing around each other, and Lawrence was like, listen, let's let tonight be about, like, no eggshells. Let's just be raw. Let's stomp them. Let's do what we have to do. And let's just have the conversation we need to have. And so, like I said, they were able to really be honest with each other. And, you know, I think they didn't say it, but what they said it was that, you know, they really still, I think, you know, still felt something there. So after they got done having dinner, you know, they outside, and it's sort of that awkward, what are we going to do now? And who come walking up? I was going to say Prison Bay. TSA Bay. I don't know where I got Prison Bay from. But TSA Bay. He with his new girlfriend, Mazda, and she texted on her phone, honey. And, of course, Issa is mortified because, you know, she had already said she hadn't been to that restaurant on a date. He had already caught her in one lie saying she had never been to there. And, honey, he started talking about the restaurant and what was on the menu and what did they eat. So, of course, let it be known that she had been there with him. And, you know, Lawrence was like, oh, hey, man, how you and Issa know each other? He was like, oh, we used to mess around. You know, we used to get it in. And Mazda looks up at him like, really? And I'm thinking, like, why you shocked? And, of course, Lawrence is getting his entire life, and Issa is mortified, right? So they walk off, and Lawrence, you know, he bends over, he gives her a little peck on the cheek. He's like, all right, I got to go. You know, it's been real. Talk to you later. And so Issa is just standing there looking crazy like, oh, okay then. Oh, because they're on their way to the art walk. And she was like, yeah, I heard the art walk has some nice exhibits. Sort of hinting like, let's go down to the art walk. And he was like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll check it out another time. And then he walks off, and she is standing there looking crazy. And then he comes back around the corner. He's joking with her. And like TSA Bay had hit her with a, ooh, like one of them like little... And he hit her with that, and she was like, oh, you got jokes? He was like, come on, girl, let's go. And so, you know, they're doing the art walk, and again, they're just talking, and they're just sort of rediscovering, you know, where they were and in that moment, and how bad, you know, where their relationship was and how bad things had really kind of gotten with them. You know, Issa was like, you know, I just felt good to have somebody want to talk to me and love me and spend time with me. You know, just the conversation. It was just the conversation they needed to have. So he ended up buying some artwork, and Issa was like, oh, look at you, you know, buying artwork. Like, you really big boy. You know, you really want some big boy stuff. You buy artwork and stuff. And so they end up leaving, and While they were there, Condola called, and she was like, you need to take the call," and he was like, "Nah, it's cool." He said, she wants to talk, and he was like, "You ain't gotta explain, you ain't gotta explain nothing to me. I'm just saying, but if you need to take the call, go on and take the call." So, um, they end up going back to the apartment. Come to find out, they live like in walking distance of each other. She was like, "So let me find out we like real life like neighbors, and I never even knew you was right around the corner from me." So they get back to his apartment, and she clowning him about his air mattress and buying real art but sleeping on the air mattress and stuff. So he says to the Uber driver, he was like, Can you give us a few minutes? She'll be back out in about 5 minutes. He was like, "I want to see the look on your face when you see, that I got real furniture." So she gets in there, and of course she's like, "Oh my gosh, like it really is nice. Okay, you got it hooked up, blah blah blah." And what's in the middle of his living room? The blue couch. She was like, "You found a really nice spot for it." And at first I didn't catch what she said at first, and I said, "Oh, she's talking about the couch, honey." So she asked to go to the bathroom, and while she go to the bathroom, Lawrence is gonna go outside and call Condola. And I'm thinking, Lawrence, why are you like, the girl is right there? And of course, Issa comes out, and he's on the phone, basically saying that he's still kind of caught up, and he'll call her later to see if it's not too late for them to still hook up to talk. And Issa walks up, and she was like, "Was that Condola?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, okay." She said, "Well, let me go on out, I'm sure my Lyft driver's probably pissed off right now. Let me go on out here and get my ride home." And she's getting ready to walk off, and she says, "What if I don't want to leave?" And he said, "Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure." And she said, "It's just been such a perfect evening. I'm just not ready for it to end." And he was like, "Well, I'm not really sure how that's going to work." Honey, he tells her she can stay. Now, I hope they went back out and told that Lyft driver to go. But anyway, he tells her she can stay. And then they get to kissing. And then they get to doing other stuff. And she spends the night. And that's how the episode ends, honey, with her sachet. He said, "You want me to give you a ride home?" And she was like, "I'm going to walk." Because she want to take all of that in, honey. She want to take all of that in. And so that's where the episode ends, with them, with her sashaying on home, honey. So listen, is that the episode we've been waiting for? For those of you, whether you were Team Lawrence or Team Issa, whether you've been wanting them to get back together or just want them to clear the air, like, is this what I know? This is what I've been waiting for, and I can appreciate that they were honest with each other. Now I don't know where we're gonna go from here, but I can appreciate that they were honest and they had the conversation that they needed to have, but they had to be ready. And they were. Good episode. It was a great episode. Y'all know I'm gonna be mad. We only have 2 more episodes left. I'm gonna be real mad when I see this thing end. Now y'all know when Issa came hopping up out that apartment, I thought Condola was gonna be pulling up, right? And see Issa coming out his apartment first thing in the morning. That's what I thought was getting ready to happen. But that ain't what happened. At least that ain't show us that happening. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.